Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome guys, my name is Liaquat Zaman. If you guys are not familiar with my channel, check out my videos, check out the different types of videos that I make. And if you guys are familiar with me, then as usual, hit the like, subscribe button and comment as well, because I like reading your comments. I like to know who's watching my videos. I know I'm a bit of a stalker. So I want to stalk you guys. I want to know who's watching my videos and who's specifically benefit from this chapter of Hajj. Now, if you guys have not checked out my crash course on Hajj, I would suggest that you check that out. So please check that out. And then this chapter is going to make so much sense, trust me. All right, so first of all, let's have a look at some questions that you guys might be asking. Who is Hajj necessary upon? Does a woman have to do Hajj? What is a mahram for a woman? Can a woman, misspelling there, can a woman go Hajj on her own? What are the Mawaqeet? How does a person do Ihram if they live in the hill? What does it mean to have enough money for family back home? Alright, so let's have a look at the text today. As you guys know, first and foremostly, we're trying to cover the meaning of the words. Hajj, it simply means to dominate, overpower. And then it's the name given for that specific journey that a Muslim makes to the house of Allah in Mecca and performs particular actions on particular dates. Okay, so Hajj, wajibun, you guys know what that means. Ahrar means free, jama of hur. And Muslim baligh is adult. Aqala is jama of aqil, which means sane, mentally sane. Sihha is a jama of sahih, which means someone who is healthy, like physically. And then إذا قدروا, قدر يقدر, it means to have capability, ability. على الزاد, zad is provisions, like food, things that you need obviously to survive. والراحلة, rahila is vehicle, transport. Fadilan, it means excess, beyond normal means. Al-maskan means home, right, you got home there. La budda, it means necessarily or without any escape. Nafaqa, it means expenditure. Iyal, it means family. Family, those who are your dependents, basically, those who rely upon you, you support them. Heen means time. Aud, it means return. Ada ya'udu aud. And then you got tariq, which means path or way. You got mahram, which means like those people is unlawful for you to marry. Right, so those who are unlawful for you to marry, they call your mahrams. Like for example, your parents and your grandparents, your children, grandchildren, uncles, aunties, siblings. Those are your mahrams, nephews, nieces. And then you got, And yahujju biha zawj. Zawj is husband. Husband. Okay. La yajuzu and tahujja. Masira means journey. Distance or journey. Thalath ayyam. Sa'idan means beyond or more than. Mawaqeet is jama of miqat. It's from the word waqt, which in this case literally means the kind of appointed places. The appointed places. Tajawaza yatajawazu, it means to go beyond. Tajawaz from the word jim waw za. Okay, then ahli al-Madina dhul hulina. Now I'm not going to explain the meaning of these words because they're not really important. They're just names of locations. So that irq, Sham, Juhfa, and then you got Qarn there, you got Yalamlam. Okay, Ihram is that state that you go into. Right, so it's the Ihram state. And if you watch the crash course on Hajj, you'll know what that is. Manzil is the home. And then Hil is basically, Hil refers to that location, which I'm going to show you an image of, which is within the miqat. I'll color it in red. Just remember that. Okay, so let's look at the i'rab tarkib of this. So Kitab al-Hajj, هذا Kitab al-Hajj. Al-Hajj mubtada. Wajibun is the khabar. And then Ahrar is the Mawsuf, Al-Muslimin is the first sifa, Balighin is the second sifa, Uqala is the third sifa, Asihha is the fourth sifa. Right, so all these are sifas of Ahrar, and they're all majroor because of Ala. Qadaru is fi'al fa'il, Al-Zadi, jar majroor, Al-Rahila is ataf onto Zad, Fadilan is hal, An Al-Maskan, so Maskan is majroor, La Budda. Now you tell me in the comments, why is it La Budda? Why is it single fatha? See what you guys know. نفقة عياله مضاف مضاف إليه. حين عوده مضاف مضاف إليه. كان الطريق اسم. آمنا is the خبر. ويعتبر المرأة في المرأة so يعتبر في أن يكون so الناصبة لها محرم. محرم is the ism. Now this is محرم, okay, with the fatha. اسم of يكون. يحج حج يحج بها أو زوج عطف onto محرم. And then you got لا يجوز لها أن تحج بغيرهما إذا كان بينهما بينها وبين مكة. So مكة is غير منصرف, ممنوع من الصرف. مسيرة مكة مسيرة. Oh, this is also مسيرة. Let's change that. It's not مسيرتي. مسيرة. So can't change it now. So مسيرة with the fatha. Okay, so فصاعدا. فصاعدا this is مفعول مطلق. والمواقيت this is the مبتدأ التي لا يجوز أن يتجاوزها الإنسان. Right, so لا, this is the فاعل of لا يجوز. Now this is محرما with a dhamma, okay, not محرما. This is محرم, so it's nasab mansub. This is going to be hal. So this is محرم. The other one was mahram. Difference between the two. Muhrim means a person in the state of ihram. Mahram means a person who you're not allowed to legally marry. Okay. لأهل المدينة خبر مقدم ذو الحليفة مبتدأ مؤخر. That's how it's going to be for the rest of these. لأهل العراق خبر مقدم ذات عرق مبتدأ مؤخر. لأهل الشام الجحفة. لأهل نجد قرن. ولأهل اليمن يلملم. فإن قدم الإحرام في الفاعل الإحرام مفعول به على هذه المواقيت جاز. ومن كان منزله اسم كان بعد المواقيت فميقات الحل. Okay, مبتدأ and خبر. Alright, so that's straightforward, really kind of easy there. Let's go to the explanation now. So first and foremostly, we're talking about Hajj. Now, if you watch the crash course on Hajj, this is going to be easy peasy. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is the Kaaba, and a person wants to do Hajj to the Kaaba, wants to come and visit this magnificent, beautiful place. May Allah take us there time and time again. Ameen. So this individual wants to do Hajj, but he can do it. Anyone can do Hajj if they want. But we were asking the question, when is it necessary upon a person? When is it considered to be mandatory upon a person, where if they don't do it, they will be counted as being sinful? Right? So when is it considered to be mandatory? That's what we want to know. So there are about 8 conditions for this. Right? So I'll write down some of them, then I'll add some more. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the first condition is, for it to be necessary on you, you have to be a free individual. So basically, you have to not be a slave. Number 2 is you have to be a Muslim, so it's not necessary on non-Muslims. Number 3 is you have to be an adult, so it's not necessary on children. Number 4, you have to be someone who is sane, not necessary upon insane people. You have to be healthy, meaning physically be able to do the journey. Number 6 is you have to have enough provisions. Provisions to be able to survive the whole entire duration that you're out there. And number 7 is you have to have some sort of a vehicle or transport to get you there. Plane ticket, bus, whatever. Right, so these are considered to be the main sort of things that they mention. Now, besides this, there's also some extra ones that they mentioned, but that's not for everyone. So for example, like number 8, you have to, if you've got a family, you have to have enough family to leave behind for them. So you have to have enough money. You have to have enough money to leave behind for your family. Okay, so that's another important thing. You've got to have enough money to leave behind for your family. So let's say, for example, a person has a family, is going to take his money with him, but is not going to leave a penny back home, then Hajj is not necessary on them. Okay, so these are considered to be the main ones. So for example, free person, opposite of slave. Muslim, opposite of non-Muslim. Adult, opposite of minor. Sane, opposite of insane. Being healthy, the opposite of being ill. Not being able to physically do the journey. Number 6, provisions is obviously being poor. Vehicle is being able to not having a transport, not being able to get there by foot. So these are the conditions. But if a slave was to do Hajj, will his Hajj be accepted? Of course. Kafir, no. Minor, if they did Hajj, well, kind of it will be accepted, but it won't be accepted as a fard Hajj. An insane person, again, if they do it, it won't be accepted as a, because they're not in the right state. Ill person would be accepted, poor person accepted, etc. Alright, so let's have a look. Kitab al-Hajj, chapter of Hajj. Al-Hajju wajibun, Hajj is necessary, al-ahrar, upon the free Muslims who are adults, al-uqala, sane, al-siha, and healthy. إذا قدروا, when they have the capability of zad, provisions, and rahila, and transport. Now this zad and provisions and vehicle has to be beyond their maskan. So in other words, even if they live in a very big house, that's not counted, right? You can be poor and living in a big house, you don't have to do Hajj, right? So the idea is that it's beyond your means. So if you remember what we talked about in zakat, when we said who is zakat necessary upon, we said they have to have savings beyond what their needs are. Same thing over here. So if you have needs, if you have a car, if you have a house, etc., doesn't necessarily mean you have to do Hajj. You have to have savings beyond that. Alright, so provisions and vehicle. وَمَا لَا بُدَّ. Okay, so house. Let's draw a house for you guys. House, and we have a dodgy car there. Alright, وَمَا لَا بُدَّ, and anything that's necessary minhu. So in other words, beyond those kind of basic needs that you need in life. مَا لَا بُدَّ مِنْهُ. وَعَنْ نَفَقَةِ عِيَالِهِ, and also money for the family. Yeah, so this is not really an 8th point, you can say, but I've just added an 8th point, so it's really kind of 7 points, but 8th one just to kind of for those people who obviously have a family, those who don't. So he must leave behind enough money for his family, right? His wife, if he's got a wife, and children, and dependents, besides them, maybe parents even, if they need his support. So an nafaqati, and beyond the nafaqa of his dependents, al ilahin audi, until he returns. So let's say, for example, he's going on the 1st of January and he's going to return on the 1st of March. Right, so that's like 2 entire months. So he's got to leave behind enough money to pay for everything his family they need until the 1st of March. Okay. وَكَانَ الطَّرِيقُ آمِنًا. Now this is an important point, right? And I can actually make this as a 9th one, which is there has to be a safe journey, right? The journey there has to be safe, as in the path. The getting there has to be safe. So if, for example, there's thieves there, or there's a war taking place, or government has put sanctions on, or illness like COVID or something, and you can't get in, then you don't have to. It won't be necessary upon you. Okay, now what about, this is all to do with average person. What about specifically to do with a woman? Are there any specific laws that we need to know? Yes, there are. So imagine this is the UK. I'm going to travel. So I travel all the way there, down to Saudi, go to Makkah. And the journey has to be safe, from all the way from my house, all the way up to Makkah. Okay. Now, I didn't put this as one of the red conditions, because let's say someone's living in Makkah, then, it's kind of like the path is going to be kind of safe anyway, isn't it? All right. So what else do we have here? Right. So what you're talking about, now let's talk about a woman. So there is a woman living in the UK. Does she have to perform Hajj or not? Well, the same conditions apply to her. Free, Muslim, adult, sane, health, all that. She obviously would not have to leave money behind for her family, because she won't be legally responsible for them. Her husband will, if she's married. But she is not allowed to go on her own. So if Hajj has become necessary on her, but she is alone, she has no other member of the family to take her, right? Her husband's busy, or she doesn't have a husband, her mahrams, her brothers, siblings, uncles, parents, father, grandfather, children, they don't have time. So then she does not have to do Hajj. Right? So she basically does not do Hajj unless there is a male close kin relative to accompany her, chaperone her. So that's have male family member, mahram. You call this a mahram, someone that you can't marry. So yu'tabar is considered in a woman أن يكون لها محرم, that she has a mahram, يهج بها, who does Hajj with her, أو زوج, or a زوج, or a husband, right? So she either has a mahram or she has زوج. ولا يجوز لها, and it's not permitted for her أن تحج بغيرهما, to do Hajj without these two individuals. Which two individuals? Yeah, like we said, the mahram and the husband, the zawj. Alright, so these are considered to be the two people that she goes with. Okay, now what if she lives locally in Mecca? The whole point of having the mahram is because of the journey she has to make. The long journey is very unsafe in the olden days. You know, she could be kidnapped or robbed or murdered or raped. Anything can happen to her in the olden days because there wasn't really kind of any safety, police forces and all that. But what if she lives in Mecca? And can she do Hajj? Then yeah, it's fine. Yeah, this is if she's local. But the condition that we said about the mahram and the zawj being there is إذا كان بينها, when between her and between Mecca there's مسيرة ثلاثة أيام. This is مسيرة كده فتحة. So you can change that. There's a distance of 3 days and 3 nights journey. So if you remember in Salat we talked about the concept of a musafir, 3 days and 3 nights. So this is the same thing over here. So if it's like a long distance, you know, later Hanafi, some of them have said 48 miles. If the distance is more than 48 miles, then she'll need someone to chaperone her. Alright, so that's that. And the Shafis, on the other hand, they actually allow a woman to travel as long as there is a group of safe people to travel with. Okay, next. What al-Mawaqeet. Now this is to do with the Mawaqeet. If you watched my Crash Hajj course, I actually explained this in a lot of detail. And I showed you the Mawaqeet. And today I'm going to show you guys. You know, because I'm a kind guy. I'll show you guys as well. So this is Hajj, Makkah or Adhan Hajj. This is Makkah. And imagine, for example, like there's like this kind of, let me draw again. Right, like this upside down kind of like cone, avocado shape. Right, and there's Medina right at the top, outside of it. So this area that's in the middle, that's called the Haram. This area in red is called the Hill. Yeah, and these red lines around it is known as the Mawaqeet. The Mawaqeet. So you got the Mawaqeet on the outside, and the inside, the flesh of the avocado is the Hill, and then the seed of the avocado is the Haram. Right, so the Haram is like a large area. I think it's about 3 miles or so. You'll have to Google it to find out. Okay, so he says this is the miqat, right? And then this is obviously the Haram. And then the fleshy part inside, this is going to be the Hill. Alright, so remember that. Okay, now the 5 points. Right, now you don't have to come through these 5 points. You can come through any part of the avocado you want. Right, but it's basically the 5 points. They kind of like you draw the dots together. So for Medina is called Dhul Hulayfa. Number 2 for Iraq is called Dhatu Irqin. Number 3 should be Sham. Change that. Okay, so 1, 2 Iraq, and then the west side. Okay, there Sham is Juhfa. Number 4 is Najd, the east side of Saudi Arabia. That's Qarn, and then Yemen is Yalamlam. Right, so these are the 5 points. Now, if you look at this, I found this nice image over here. You can actually see this over here. There's Dhul Hulayfa, Dhatu Irq, Qarn, Juhfa, and Yalamlam. Right, those are roughly kind of where they kind of are. Okay, and there's that. If you see the green one on the left hand side, that kind of draws it more precisely, exactly. Yeah, it's like an upside down cone, if you can see. Yeah, and this one over here, next to it, this is like a dotted line one there. Yeah. So anyway, you got the point. I think that's the. And if you just type in Mawaqeet al-Hajj and you go into Google Images, you'll find loads of resources for it. All right. So next. والمواقيت, the مواقيت التي which لا يجوز, which is not permitted أن يتجاوزها الإنسان. Yeah, so this is the مواقيت that a human passes it, a Muslim passes it, إلا محرما, except in the state of Ihram. This is when you want to go for Hajj and Umrah, yeah? لأهل المدينة, for the people of Medina. Right, so if you're coming from the north, basically, right, if you're coming from the north, then that's the point you need to take into consideration. Right, it's called Dhul Hulayfa. And if you're coming from Iraq, from the northeast, it's called Dhatu Irq. Yeah, that's this one over here, northeast. And if you're coming from Sham, which is the west, it's called Juhfa. And if you're coming from the southeast or east, it's called Qarn. And then if you come from the south, it's called, for Yemen, it's called Yalamlam. So you don't have to come through these points. You can come through anywhere around that shape. But that's basically the points that you need to keep in mind. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 corresponding. Right, final masala now. Can you do Ihram? Do you have to do Ihram right at these points, or can you do it from your house, wherever in the world? You can even do it from Mars if you like. Yeah, maybe in the future people will. So, if a person was to travel from, let's say, the UK, where you're traveling from there, the northwest, then you're going to make sure your Ihram is done before this point, anywhere before this point. Some people do it in Turkey when the airplane stops. Some people do it in other places. Okay, so and what if a person lives in the hill there? You can see a small little guy lives in the kind of fleshy part of the avocado. What do they have to go outside the line and then come back in? No, they don't. They can do Ihram from their house, anywhere inside the pink part. Right, so فَإِن قَدَّمَ, if a person was to bring forward the Ihram على هذه المواقيت, before these Mawaqeet, جاز, it's permissible. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَنْزِلُهُ, and whoever's house is بعد المواقيت. بعد المواقيت means in that flesh area. فَمِقَاتُهُ, then their miqat will be the hill. So their specific miqat will be counted as the hill area. There you have it. That is today's masalas. I hope you guys understand all that. It makes sense. I tried my best to kind of explain to you guys. Check out the crash course of Hajj as well. Inshallah, this chapter is going to be very, very easy. So today we covered all the conditions for Hajj to be necessary on a person. Not necessary to be able to do it, but to necessary. And then we talked about the woman's Hajj, and we talked about the Mawaqeet concept. Right, let's answer questions. Right, so let's have a go at the questions now. So my camera unfortunately did mess up a bit. The sound just got a bit messed up, so that's why I had to redo the sound for this last section. But anyway, you guys have got the lesson. Here are the questions for you guys to try. Who is Hajj necessary upon? Does a woman have to do Hajj? What is a mahram for a woman? Can a woman, remember that misspelling, woman go Hajj on her own? What are the Mawaqeet? How does a person do Ihram if they live in the hill? And what does it mean to have enough money for family back home? So answer these first of all, and then I'll try to answer them as well. So who is Hajj necessary upon? Hajj is necessary upon those people who we said in the beginning, right? Who have the capability, ability, Muslim, sane, free person, who has the funding and ability to be able to travel there, vehicle, etc. Does a woman have to do Hajj? So the answer is yes. If she has the means, she'll have to do Hajj as well. But unless she has a mahram. If she doesn't have a mahram, then no. What is a mahram for a woman? A mahram for a woman is anyone who she basically can't marry from the male relatives. And also her husband as well. Can a woman go Hajj on her own? No. Going to Hanafis? No. What are the Mawaqeet? So we mentioned the 5 Mawaqeet. Do you remember them? Right. If you remember the 5 Mawaqeet, put them in the comments. How does a person do Ihram if they live in the hill? So they do it from wherever they live. So they don't have to go outside the boundaries. What does it mean to have enough money for family back home? So enough money must be left for them so that they are able to support themselves, provide for themselves, or not support, live until the person returns. If a person goes in January, they're able to live there. The people are able to survive, pay the rent, electricity, food, etc., etc. And that's it basically. So Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Really appreciate it. I do apologize in the end when it got a bit messed up. This video was actually supposed to come out last week. And thank you to all my patrons for the support you guys show me. Allah bless you all. It's almost 3 years now since I've started the Patreon, alhamdulillah, and you guys have been supporting the channel. May Allah bless you. And anyone who wants to support my channel, if you like my work, if you think the work I'm doing is something which is good, then please check out the description. There's links there, and I will see you guys next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.